Helen here with Eyes on the Game, and I'm here at the UFC PI being joined by the man of the hour, Kevin Lee. Now, you are fighting in about 10 days, 10 days till weigh-ins, April 21st, fighting Edson Barboza. First off, because I know leading into your fight with Tony Ferguson, it was made well aware that your weight cut had a big factor to do with that. So how has your weight been for this fight and being 10 days out compared to 10 days from that fight?
That's been one of the major focuses of this camp is making sure I'm healthy, making sure my weight is great. I've been working with the guys down here at the PI. I just met with them a couple minutes ago, and everything's on point. I'm looking forward to it. I feel like that's really going to show during the fight. I'm already one of the best athletes in this division, and once I show up physically 100%, that's going to give me that mental strength, and I'm going to go out there, I'm going to get it done.
And you keep mentioning some changes that you've made and a lot, not only, in your fight game, I'm sure, but also your management. So can you kind of talk about some of those changes and how it's affected you maybe positively?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of changes. Some of them have been voluntary. Some I just got to roll with the punches. Change my head trainer, change my management. I'm now signed with CAA Sports, one of the biggest sports management agencies in the world. And I feel like that's just opening up more opportunities. It's giving me a bigger team behind me. Now I got about 7-8 guys that are working for me and making sure I'm taking some of that extra stress, some of the extra load off me. Because when you're young and ambitious, I just want to do it all. And I'm just like, all right, let's go. So as I'm headlining my first pay-per-view, I'm just doing too much and it starts to come out physically. Your body starts to break down from all the stress and it all comes to a head. But now I feel like I've gotten it under control, and a lot of that is just experience.
Yeah, and speaking of experience, I recently spoke to Dewey Cooper, who you work with, and he said that maybe, for the last fight with the interim title being on the line, it might have, experience may have played a part in that. So what did you learn about that situation? And do you agree that maybe, with the title on the line, it may have affected things?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you can say it before the fight as much as you want. You can say it's another fight. You can say it's all this and that, but it comes out during the fight, and sometimes it can be too much pressure on you, especially for a young guy. I'm still learning myself. I'm still learning the game, and this is just one of those growing experiences. I've said that about MMA for a long time. I think that's one of the worst things is that we don't have that amateur system, or we don't have a great system behind us to kind of get those losses out the way and kind of understand yourself even in that slow buildup. When in MMA, it's kind of the best and the worst. Right out the gate, you fighting the best, toughest guys, and there's good and there's bad to that. And the bad to it is you don't get a whole lot of experience in there. You right in there and you jumping on them hot coals. So sometimes you got to jump off of them and really kind of step back and look at it.
And what about someone like Edson Barboza, who recently we all saw his fight against Khabib, who is now the UFC lightweight champion? But what did you take away from that fight?
I mean, Khabib did his job. I think Edson went in there already a broken man. I think you could see it on his face. You could see it in his body. You could see it in his movements. I'm expecting a way better Edson Barboza. The man has never lost 2 in a row. And every time he has lost, he's come back even stronger, even better. So I'm preparing for the best Edson that there is. He's still, even though you look at that fight and you see that he got his ass whooped, he's still one of the toughest dudes in his division. There's not somebody that kicks harder, punches harder, is more explosive. I think we're hands down the 2 best athletes. So I'm expecting the best man, and I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna get it done. He's been the best striker for a long time, and once I take that title from him, then I'm coming after Khabib's.
Yeah, and speaking of Khabib and everything, the lightweight division, no doubt, is a very stacked division. Did the UFC maybe tell you that, hey, if you win this fight, then you are next in line for the belt?
Like you said, there's so many moving parts, especially at the top. There's a little bit of a log jam. There's money to be made. You got that Conor Khabib fight. I understand good business. I ain't gonna turn it down. All in good time. I think that's one of the reasons why they didn't call me when Tony fell out of this last fight, because they knew hands down I'm right up in there. I was gonna. Me and Max were kind of cut from the same cloth. I would have said yes before I even hung up the phone. So It's all in good time. There's great fights to be made. The good thing is I'm only 25 years old. I'm in this game for a long time. I think Khabib's going to be around for a long time. So there's money to be made out there. We'll see how it goes.
And you mentioned a bit earlier that obviously Max Holloway was slated to step in for Tony Ferguson, but then you said your weight was lower than his during that time. Do you know how much he weighed in around?
I don't know exactly, but I know I was already preparing for a 5-round fight. I'm already getting ready for it. That might have had a factor into it. We had already kind of done this media build-up for me and Edson, and the UFC hates to scrap one main event for another. The UFC is the best promotion in the world for a reason. So there's a little bit of frustration there in not getting that call and not being able to be the one to expose that hole in Khabib's game. But I think it all turned out for the better. He ended up getting an easier fight versus Al. Went out there, he still got the job done. That O is still intact, which means I can still come by and steal it. But like I said, we'll see how this whole thing plays out. Right now, I'm focusing 100% on Edson. Edson is still one of the toughest fights in his division, and it's my job to go out there and show him that he's not.
And so last week, though, would you say about over 10 pounds away from the weight, or 15, or?
Oh, for me myself, yeah, probably lower than Max, but we'll
10 or 15, or?
Yeah, we'll I gotta play. I gotta give the folks something to wonder about. We'll see. Right now, about 10 or 15. Let's just say that.
Oh, so 10 days out, about 10 or 15, but better than before the Ferguson fight.
100%. Yeah, I was actually lower this time. If that cut would have actually been easier in those 6 days than the Ferguson cut, for sure, hands down. I think I cut about. It was pretty public. I cut way too much weight for that fight. I think I cut 23 pounds, which was, it's not. But, I still show up. I'm a professional. I've never missed weight in my career. And that time would have been no different. This time, I'm way ahead of schedule, and it's going to be way better, and it's going to show during the fight. That's for sure.
Yeah, good. And speaking of fights, you mentioned, obviously, Khabib and Al, their fight. What did you make of Al, who lasted and survived the 5 rounds, who many people may have thought, would he?
Yeah, I mean, me and Al got a lot of back and forth. I don't really like the man, but I don't take it away from him. He can fight. I still didn't think he stood a chance. That's asking a lot from somebody. He was getting ready to fight a guy like Paul Felder, who hasn't never taken a shot in his UFC career. So how much wrestling did he do before? He's getting ready for a 3-round fight. In 1 day notice, he said a couple weeks ago before that fight that he would never fight Khabib, and they had to pay him $10 million or whatever, some crazy number. He went in there scared. He went in there to not lose, and that's just not the way to fight somebody. If they would have offered it to me, I would have been out there to whoop Khabib's ass. It would have been a totally different mindset. It would have been a totally different fight, but we'll say that for the future.
And I know you said also that you don't want to give Conor that much more publicity, but obviously he was the main talk since Media Day on Thursday. What did you make of his actions? And some people even said, I saw on Twitter, they were saying, well, Conor's a good friend for defending Artem. What do you make of all that? And they said that, not me.
Yeah, of course. You're going to have the fanboys that are going to defend him for anything. But the real recognize real. It's childish. It's childish. It was immature. It's all the above. I think Dana put it best. It's disgusting, and it's really like, he's taken from other people's careers too, and don't really understand what he's doing even. And I think a lot of that is just frustration. I think the man knows he's not the real champ, and I think he's getting outshined by all these guys, and he just wants that press. He just wants something. He just want to prove that he's tough. When we can see right through the bush, you ain't that tough. And it's just like, no matter how big and you want to scream and shout and all this, you're just not that tough. If you was tough enough, you sign that line and you fight somebody. So to show up, do all that, make that big hoopla, you wasn't going to get from it except some bad publicity. What can I say?
And what about him getting stripped of the title? And also, I know you said that or you vocally said you feel Tony is the best lightweight in the division. So what do you make of him getting his interim title taken away as well?
Yeah, I called it before the fight, before my fight with Tony. Me and Tony were definitely the best in the division, and we were fighting for the real title. It's just now that they're now stripping Conor, but it should have been happened. Conor was never the true champ. So I still think that Tony, even though he got the title stripped, he's still the number one guy. I feel bad for the man for getting his title stripped, but we're gonna see how that whole thing shakes out. Like I said, I apologize for the whole scenario. If I would have showed up healthy versus Tony, none of this would have happened. I still had that gold belt around my waist, and that whole week would have been different. Because best believe, if I was on that bus, Conor ain't throwing shoe no window, and if he is, all 20 of them get dropped.
Yeah, and what about Michael Chiesa, who was supposed to fight Anthony Pettis, and a few months or a few weeks ago, I think he said that when he runs into you here, you guys are cool, but kind of maybe even talked about a rematch. Would you be open to that after this fight, or where does that stand?
I feel bad for Mike. He should really stop showing up for media stuff. It's like his head just want to be out there to get hit. Yeah, I see him around here and there. He kind of give me that side eye. He's kind of still butthurt about the whole situation. I went and I told him, I'm like, bro, the ref saved you there. You should be thanking Mario Yamasaki. He tried to entertain a rematch. I say you work your way back up to it, and we'll talk about it. He didn't really, he didn't lose a fight, but he didn't win a fight. So we're gonna see how that whole thing plays out. Right now, I'm on the bigger and better. That's easy money, but I love a challenge. So I'd much rather take somebody like Edson Barboza, who is, gonna give me that real challenge. If I gotta take a step back and fight Mike Chiesa, then I love easy money. I ain't gonna turn it down. I do it for free, but we'll see.
Yeah, and lastly, because I believe last year, this time we kind of spoke about, it was leading up to the Mayweather-McGregor fight, and then if Floyd was going to bring you in to help him prepare for Conor. Now, recently, this past weekend, I believe Floyd told Showtime if he does come back, it is for MMA. And Dewey Cooper, I know sometimes you guys train at Mayweather Boxing Club, so have you heard anything about it, or has Floyd reached out to you about MMA?
I've talked to his team a little bit, especially like a lot of his just a lot of his team around. I'm good friends with, so we kind of kick it. We talk a little bit. They want my opinion on if he should do MMA and all this. We're gonna see. I told him, give me till after my fight. I'll come back. It's kind of the same situation it was when they asked me to get him ready for that Conor fight. I got my own thing coming up, so I'm focusing on my fight. When I come back, I'll sit down. Maybe we'll talk and we'll see. I know they're bringing in Tyron to help him out, but I'm already here in town. I know they've got my little brother too, Keith Lee, who's a starting pro. He's got 5 pro MMA fights. It's about the same size as Mayweather too. So I told him it'd be a great training partner. We're gonna see how this whole thing shakes up. But right now I'm focusing just on the 21st. After that, it's going to take Mayweather a long time to get ready for an MMA fight anyway. That's a lot to ask from a man, and that's a lot of the different movements that he's going to have to get used to. So yeah, I'll help the man, of course, as much as I can, as much as he's helped me in my career.
Yeah, and you said they already kind of reached out for advice though, right? Yeah,
a little bit here and there, but there's no plan setting forth on when he's starting training or anything like that. So I don't, I lead them to do their job, let me do my job, and then we'll come together and we can make some money.
And how long do you think it would take Floyd to train and prepare for an MMA fight, even if there are slightly special rules or different rules? I
would give him about 6 months. 6 months with a proper training, I think he can. I think he can actually surprise some people, and I think he can do better than even I would give him credit for. Especially depending on the opponent, the right opponent, the right preparation. If he's preparing for somebody like my brother or some, it's Vegas. He can come down here to the UFC PI. We've got a lot of high level training partners for him to work with. About 6 months, I think he can make the job happen, and that's a lot of money on the table. That's a lot of motivation for a man. So I think he can actually do pretty good.